What's up everyone? Lance Hedrick here for Onyx Coffee Lab. I'm the head of sales here, and I'm excited to present to you our brew guide for filter coffee for our new Ethiopia Worka coffee. Now this is a high elevation washed Ethiopia. It's it's delicious. This is my favorite type of coffee to brew. But before getting into it, please note Ethiopias are notorious for producing a lot of fines, so keep that in mind as you're grinding. Today the grind size I'm using, if you have a C40, Comandante C40, is at 23 clicks. So that's, what is that? It's like 690 microns or so. So as you see from the overhead, it's about like that. All right. So it looks, I would say just a bit coarser than sugar, right? That you typically use, like refined sugar. All right. So today, the recipe I'm going to use is going to sound unconventional. It's going to be a bigger ratio than I'm sure you're used to, but I promise you it will yield incredible results. This coffee is difficult to extract. It doesn't want to extract, and so we're going to really push it. So I'm going to use 23 grams of coffee to 400 grams of water that's boiling. You might think that's overkill. That's over a 1:17 ratio, but trust me, it's gonna be delicious, all right? So the way we're gonna brew this is we're gonna do 65 gram pour, a 65 gram pour, and then 3 90-gram pours. So we're gonna pour 65, then we're gonna pour to 130, then we're gonna pour to 220, 310, 400, all right? So let's go ahead and get going. And we're on a V60, by the way, all right? So I'm gonna dump in my 23 grams of coffee. All right, got that. Now I like to take a chopstick and I'm going to circle and come to the middle to create a divot. Now you can use a pen or something else to do that, but whenever I use a conical device, I like to create a divot in the middle. I don't like using my finger because it compresses the bed, but I used a chopstick today. So now we have a divot, we have our 23 grams of coffee, and our water is boiling. So I'm gonna take this water, I'm gonna start my timer, and I'm gonna pour 65 grams. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shake it. I'm gonna give it a little spin. And now what the spin is acting as is it is helping to fully saturate all the grounds in that bed, all right? So we're wanting to get all the CO2 degassed so that we can really begin that process of diffusion to really get all the goodies outside of these grounds. Then at 30 seconds, we're gonna do our second 65 gram pour. So right now, boom. And this is to rid the CO2 that is built up below the crust. So as you know, there's a crust that forms, and so the CO2 and gases get trapped underneath it. I'm releasing it with that second 65 gram pour. Now we have 3 90-gram pours. We're gonna pour them pretty heavily into the center of the brew bed, followed by just a little swirl. Now the swirl acts as a way to level out the bed, to settle into place and to negate any potential channels. So we're gonna just blast this up until 220. Boop. All right. Do a little boop, like so. All right. Then we got 2 more of those every 30 seconds. So we're gonna pour every 30 seconds. At 0, then at 30, then at 1, then at 130, 2, etc. All right. So we got about 10 more seconds of waiting. As this coffee is extracting, we're gonna pour up to 310 grams. All right. And boom. Just pouring straight up in the center to 310. All right. Give it just a little boom. All right. And so this is this is helping us settle the bed and negate channels. We want to be really particular with a V60 on how we're extracting because there is bypass going on. Water is going through the filter in the spaces between the filter and the wall, and it's bypassing that final cup, which can detract from our extraction. So we want to heighten all the other variables in order to get a really nice cup. Now this cup, for you extraction nerds out there, will yield around a 21.5 to 22% extraction, which is is pretty good for a conical device. So make sure you're grinding just fine enough that the final drawdown is going to be around 3.5 minutes, maybe 3:45, depending on the roast date. Obviously, it'll change depending on roast date or days off roast. This was actually roasted yesterday, so if you see it in the above and you saw that CO2, that is not probably what will happen. It'll taste better, in my opinion, tastes much better 2 to 3 weeks off roast. So in this cup, what you're going to experience is you're gonna get a lot of white peach up front, like a lot. It is incredible, really sweet stone fruit. You're gonna get some floral honey, like kind of like refined sugar floral honey. You're going to get a lot of like white florals. I get a lot of lilac in this brew. And then as it sits on your tongue, it's a very silky body. And it leaves kind of like a lingering oily coating, and there's like a lingering cocoa in your mouth as it cools down. I really enjoy this coffee. It's perhaps my favorite Washed Ethiopia release every year, and that's saying something because my favorite coffees are Washed Ethiopias. So we're at about 320. It looks like this will take closer to 3 minutes and 40 seconds to have its final drawdown, which makes sense being roasted yesterday. But yeah, as long as we are right underneath 4 minutes for this brew, we're going to be good. So yeah, we're just going to let it do that final drain. Then I'm going to pour it in my cup and take a sip because we've labored over this coffee and it's time to enjoy it. All right. And we're at 345 and we're about to see that bed. And there we go. So let me grab this to remove the V60. And boom, right at 359. Perfect. All right. So if you're doing, a week or two off roast, it's going to drain closer to 345. And if you have a little older coffee, it might drain closer to 330. But there you have it. We're going to take a little sip of this. And black tea. It's a note I forgot. You'll get a lot of black tea in it. Anyway, thanks for joining me for the brew guide today. Hope you enjoy the Worka. Cheers.